Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us on Upfront in the Prophetic. Blessed that you are here. Today, we have Larry Ballard with us, and we're going to tap into part two about Iran. What in the world is going on? We have two different cultures living in our country, actually, a lot of different cultures. And not only that, I just saw a TikTok where in New York, they're banning dogs. Yes, because the Islamic people do not like dogs. Well, you know what? If you don't like dogs, all I can say is go back to your country and you don't have to have dogs. But guess what? We love dogs. And honestly, if you don't like dogs, we're going to get more dogs. So, anyway, I just had to throw that out there because it's getting crazy out there. And why is it getting crazy? Because we've kept our mouths closed for so long. People, it's time to rise up. Rise up in integrity, right? And in strength and knowing who we are as Americans. So without further ado, we're going to tap more into what's going on. Hey, Larry, how are you?
I'm good, and I know what's going on. They're
I
banning
know,
dogs.
right? Exactly. Oh my gosh. It's
Folks, I got to
crazy.
tell you, this is going to be a really good show. You know how I know? Because this is take three. The enemy doesn't want this out. I mean, we've been having what you call technical difficulties. But anyway, let's go to that first opening slide. I want to show them the title of the show, and then I
Okay.
have a video that I want you to play. So the name
Awesome.
of this show is it's not just about bombs dropping. It's the Iran War, lessons to be learned. How did we get to the brink of a nuclear war? How are we setting at a point where we might be on the brink of World War III? How do we get out of this mess? And then what lessons do we have to learn from it so we don't repeat it again? So history doesn't come knocking on our door a few years later saying, oh, we're just back where we were. So anyway, play that video if you would, and then we'll dig deep down to the bowels of this show.
All right, let's do that. Absolutely. Okay, guys, let me pull this up for you. And here we go.
And then it acted. No more veils in public. No more foreign money building radical mosques. No more excuses for forced marriages and cultural enclaves that defy Italian law. Because Italy saw what other nations refused to admit, that multiculturalism without integration becomes a slow motion suicide. Now, Italy is drawing a line in the sand, not against Islam, but against the collapse of national unity. And what's most shocking? They might be the first Western country to actually prevent it. Let's break down exactly what Italy did, how far it went, and why this may be Europe's last warning. April 2022. Sweden's prime minister stands before cameras with a confession that shocks the nation. Magdalena Andersson admitted that the Scandinavian country has failed. Segregation has been allowed to go so far that we now have parallel societies. We live in the same country, but in completely different realities. 2 decades, 20 years of watching communities form that answer to different laws, different values, different loyalties. Sweden's foreign born population had doubled in 20 years. 1 in 5 Swedes now born outside the country, and by the time leaders admitted the truth, over 100 police officers had been injured in riots triggered by a single Quran burning. Gang violence had turned Swedish cities into war zones, bombings, shootings, entire neighborhoods where emergency services required armed police escorts, areas where Swedish law meant nothing and clan justice meant everything. The damage was done. France had an even bloodier reckoning. In October 2020, a teacher named Samuel Paty showed cartoons of Muhammad in a classroom discussion about free speech. Days later, he was beheaded on a Paris street by an 18-year-old who'd been radicalized through social media and mosque networks. The killer.
Wow.
That's good. So
That's
why did I want to play that? You saw that young man there? He was raised in Italy.
mm,
So if you went in and listened to that whole show, which is about a half an hour long, they go on to tell you a couple of things that are important. So in the opening of this clip, they were talking about multiculturalism in a nation. That means a nation that's now got, in this instance in Europe, millions of Islamic people who came in as refugees, right? And here in America, it means we got people from countries all over the world, from China, from all of South America, from Latin America, from countries that have dump cultures. And in both instances, both in Europe and in America, those people are not like immigrants who came when America was founded. They have no intention. So it goes on to tell you in this video that we played that under no consideration, if you come into Europe as a refugee, are you to ever, on any consideration, consider yourself to be English or British or French or Spanish or whatever. You are first and foremost a Muslim, and you are a member of Sharia law, and you are basically bound by the Quran to treat those people as your mortal enemies. No allegiance whatsoever to the nation in which you live, only allegiance to Islam. And that's why you heard them say that they have to send in security forces into areas if they want to send in first responders. So basically, these people have nothing but disdain for us. They want to completely, utterly dominate the entire world. That's why this story that we're talking about to say is so important. If you think the global financial leader bad, these people are like them on steroids. Mm-hmm. So let's dig deep down into this. And what I'm going to try to do is what I always do. Tie things together in a way that you don't get it elsewhere so that we can walk away with an action plan that means something for what we can do to save this nation, so that we're not going to see ourselves 3 years down the road like the Prime Minister of Switzerland, I think it was, or Sweden it was, saying we've lost our nation. Right. We're now two nations with two completely different cultures, two completely different religious systems, two completely different ideologies, and we're at war with one another within our own nation. We're going to avoid that. So let's go on down. And I have to make a commercial interruption. I've got to tell you about my new book. So let's go quickly to that. It was stuck in the birth canal for 3.5 years. I wrote this book 3.5 years ago. God said, great, you got it done. Now park it. He said, I'll tell you when it's time. And it won't be time until the world's on the absolute brink, till it's facing the brink of World War III, because that's the only time people are going to listen. So I want to make a plea to you, and I hope you won't take this offensively, but you can listen to me. I thank you, all of those who've been following me with Francine here for close to 2 years, but we're now at the point where we've got to become really, truly aware of what's going on. We've got to look evil in the face, and we've got to stand up and say, we're American first. We're Christians first. We're not Islamic, and we're not a member of any other culture. And we have to understand, why was America founded in the first place? Because all those nations in Europe fought each other for decades, for hundreds of years, thousands of years. And finally, they came to America to get out from under feudalism, to get out from under the religious biases that they were there. And what happened? We integrated those people into a uniquely new society, a republic, a government of the people, by the people, for the people. That's why they came here. And that's what they're trying to take away from us, to take us back to feudalism, where we're nothing but chattel, nothing but personal property, where we have no rights whatsoever. So here's my message to you, my plea, I should say. We're now coming into the midterms. And then we're coming into what's going to be the most consequential presidential election we have ever had. And you're seeing that people are rising up in Russia. They're rising up in China. They're rising up in Iran. They're rising up in Venezuela. They're rising up in all over the world, but not so much in America, because America hasn't felt enough pain yet. Well, the pain's coming, folks, and it's going to come big time if we don't do something before it's too late. So what I need you to do is recognize something. We need an army of people who are going to stand for the republic, who are going to stand for liberty. And that means you have to be informed. So what God told me all those years, 1968, he said, I'm going to prepare you for most of your life to that pinnacle moment when the world is on the brink, to deliver a message that opens people's eyes so the truth can set them free. We're there, folks. So what I'm saying to you is, it's not going to do you any good to listen to my videos for the next 6 months or next year, because this is all going to be decided in the next few months. We need people who will buy this book, sit down and read it, and have their eyes opened to the truth, and will be willing to fight to restore this republic. That's what we need. That's what I'm asking you to do. Make the decision. to buy the equivalent of 2 or 3 cups of coffee at Starbucks in order to become an American patriot and stand up for this nation. Do it now, because now is the only time that it's going to matter. So with that, I want to tell you that you can click that QR code and go buy that book on my website. You can buy merchandise. And for those of you who maybe haven't been following me and don't know that you really want to buy it, you can go there and get a free chapter that you can read. And for those who have been following me, I have one last appeal. I'm very close to getting an award from Amazon, and that award would be that I was the best-selling new release in my category. But so that what that means to me personally and to the promotion of this book is we've got till the end of the month. If we cross that finish line and we're #1 at the end of the month, then we get that accolade to use to promote this book. So if you have any intention of buying it, buy it this week so that we can hopefully come out of this and waving a flag and say, we got what we wanted. We're the #1 bestseller that's been released this month in this category. So let's go on down and dig into this. That's enough of me promoting my book. So here we are, and this war was unavoidable. It's been going on for 1,400 years. People don't know their history. They don't know that we've been going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And they don't know that Islam has killed 50 million Christians during that time. And they've killed people of every religion you can think of. They killed about 120 Africans through their slave trade. They've killed tens of millions of people. They are absolutely dedicated to what that sign says. Islam will dominate the world. And if they have to have a nuclear war to do it, so be it. Let's go on down. And what we want to see now is if you know the Quran, which I do, because I'm probably one of the few people out there, God instructed me, not only I have to read the Bible, but I have to read the Quran. And so they say they're a religion of peace. Well, let me give you the history of Iran. Basically, what Muhammad did is he wrote that book himself, where you look at the Bible, and it's written by multiple people over a long, long period of time, and it's full of prophecies that came true. It's got a lot of validity to it. And when you look at what happened with Muhammad, he wrote the whole book himself, and what he tried to do was to downgrade Christ to just a prophet and say, I'm the newest, latest, and greatest prophet, follow me. And the Christian people and the Jewish people didn't accept that. And so basically he became a religion that grew through conquest, by taking over nations. And here's what we're facing. Ramadan is their holy period where they're instructed to do no violence. So what's going to happen is on the 19th, it's just a couple of days from now, Ramadan ends. I don't know what they're going to do, but obviously our government is concerned because they've got warnings out, the U.S. on high alert. Iran is ready to basically possibly create multiple 9/11s. And so I went into the Quran, and it's two different stories. If you remember of Islam, it is all about peace. But if you're an infidel who's not part of the Islamic religion, this is what they have to say to you. So this is what they're telling the people to do starting after the 19th. But when the sacred months are passed away, kill the idolaters, that's us non-Muslims, wherever you may find them, and kill them and besiege them and lie in wait for them in every place of observance. That's a call, my friends, to terrorism. Right there on that screen. And we have let thousands and thousands of these sleeper cells into our country. And who knows what havoc they're going to do. We have to wake up. And like Italy, we have to say, we have to put some controls and create a situation where you want to be here, you're going to assimilate into the American culture. We're not going to have a nation that's divided. God tells us a nation divided cannot stand because you cannot serve two masters. We have to get control, and there's ways we can do it. We can do part of what Italy did, which we'll discuss again in a minute. And then there are laws that Donald Trump is proposing that we can initiate quickly. Let's go to the next slide. I'm going to give you some more history. A lot of you are kind of aware of what that badge that you see there is, because it was made very famous in World War II when Adolf Hitler said all the Jews have to wear that badge to note that they're Jews. Well, its origin was way, way, way back. It was from Islam. And basically Islam became a nation that, a nation and a religion that basically grew through force. So when they went in and took a nation over, they said, convert to Islam. Great, you're good. But if you don't want to convert to Islam, you have to pay a servitude tax. You're basically a slave, and you've got to pay a tax and wear a necklace, or you've got to wear that badge so that they know who you are. You're not one of them. And if you don't want to adopt either one of those two, then the third choice is we'll chop your head off. That's the nation. That's the religion that calls itself a religion of peace. So I just want you to know that's their worldwide plan before you. Conquer those, and who submit, cut their heads off. Let's go on down. And we're going to go through quite a few of these really fast. So let's go to the next slide. Okay. So what are they saying here? They're saying we're going to outbirth you. So what happens is they're saying you are infidels and you are the enemies of Islam, and we will impose Sharia law. And Sharia law is 180 degrees counter-opposed to the Constitution. Women have zero rights in Islam. I mean, zero. The people have very few rights. It's a religion of absolute oppression and slavery, and it's even worse than a dictatorship because it's controlled by religious zealots who basically not only control the economy but the smallest aspects of your life. Women can't go out without wearing a face cover called a burqa. I mean, and all a man has to do, if his wife commits adultery, he's allowed to kill her. But if he goes out and has sex with 20 women, there's no consequences whatsoever. I mean, this is the absolute tantamount patriarchal society. Let's go on down. And now we're going back to how all this got started in the first place. And we need to understand this has to do with legal immigration, and it has to do with election theft. And we have to understand that we've got to get our country back. So what we're seeing here is illegal immigration has been used to attack both Europe and the United States of America. So with Europe, it was done when we inflicted the world by having the Arab Spring and causing millions and millions of refugees to come into Europe and flood in and refuse to be part of those cultures. That's the seed that they put in the plant in Europe to basically sow the seed of destruction of Europe. And over in the United States, well, we have Mexico and we have Latin America and South America that are ostensibly controlled by drug cartels. And so those people have come in by the millions and come into the United States. And so we have people here from South America and from Iran and from China, for that matter, who have no intention of inculcating into the American culture. They're here to destroy us. There are mortal enemies, and we need to understand that. Look at that picture in the middle. Now, that's taken, I think, in France or maybe Italy, but they're doing the same thing here in America.
Yes,
go on your internet and type in Times Square, and you'll see that in Times Square they go in there for their daily prayer sessions and clog the entire Times Square, just shut it down completely. They have no regard for us or for this culture. And that picture over on the right, that's people coming from South America. Do those look like friends, folks? We are being faced with an army of incursion intended to absolutely bring this nation down. Let's go a little deeper and figure out more of how they do it. So now we're talking about they're going to outbirth us. So they can have multiple wives, and each one of those wives has 2, 3, 4 kids. So they're outbirthing us 10 to 1. The average Caucasian, both in Europe and in America, has between 1.2 and 1.5 children, not even replacement rate. And so they are becoming the cultural majority in nation after nation after nation. And what happens when you do that? You start protesting in the streets, you start lobbying politicians, and the next thing you know in Europe, there are mosques everywhere and there's Sharia law, and you've got governments that have 2 different legal systems, and the nations are being pulled apart. Absolutely. So basically, their goal is absolute cultural dominance, cultural, political, religious dominance, period. Let's go on down and we'll see how this plays out right here in the United States of America. So we have the people coming up to escape the drug cartels, but in any nation in the world, you can go in and you can see advertisements like the one you see here, birth tourism. So what they're telling you, this is the global financial elite. These are people within our own government paying for these advertisements. Go get yourself pregnant, get a bun in your oven, schedule a trip to the United States, drop your baby here, and your baby is all of a sudden an American citizen, and you get to stay because you're the guardian of that baby. And because we have chain migration, that means all your entire family can come, and when they get here, all their families can come, and that's how we get inundated. That law, the 14th Amendment, that is what's behind birth tourism, was never intended for this purpose. It was intended, once we gave freedom to the slaves, that their children would become American citizens. We are being inundated. This is an army of incursion coming into the United States. Let's go on down and we're going to look at exactly what they did to orchestrate the mess that we saw at the opening of this over in Iran. That picture up in the top, which is Iran and Africa and the Middle East, That's the Arab Spring. They destabilized all of those nations in order to create that refugee crisis that gave them the ability to take over Europe. And then let's go on down to the below. And what that is we are going to be talking about how we have presidents that are bought and paid for and put in office not to represent the people of the United States of America, but represent the global financial elite and the corporation that was installed to take us over in 1871. So Biden happens to be one of those presidents, and that picture down below you see, that is the absolute absurdity of our leaving Afghanistan and intentionally created a situation where billions and billions and billions of weapons were left behind to be used by terrorists against the United States of America. Then let's go over to the other side of this and what we see, the drug cartels. So they killed a drug cartel leader in Mexico, and they had to declare it was a national emergency. People had to shelter in place. So who do you think's running Mexico? I mean, it's the president is a figurehead. And then we go down to Africa, and people don't pay attention to Africa. There are millions of Christians today being killed in Africa by Muslims, and they're being funded by France and by nations in Europe because they send these people in to resource-rich nations. The best example I can give is the Congo, the Republican Congo, who has all kinds of minerals. So they come in, they send those people in, and they basically take the nation over, kill the Christians, and take over the mines. And so this is what's going on. It's an immigration or refugee crisis, and it's intended to create order out of chaos. And when the dust is all settled, they'll figure out who's going to be on top. But I can tell you this, folks, they don't plan on it being us. Let's go to the next slide,
Right.
and you're going to find out a little bit about why Donald Trump does the things that he does. He knows that he had to get control of Venezuela because Venezuela was basically the key to controlling all of South America. And what was happening is they had people training in Venezuela to come into the United States as terrorist groups. They were one of the launching points for the immigration crisis that came into this country. And most importantly, it was out of Venezuela that basically they stole our election and 71 other nations' elections, and we have to disclose that. And this is what's going to open it up. Now that we have Maduro, now that we have a lot of whistleblowers coming out, this is where the people are going to get their eyes open. They're going to understand we haven't had an honest election since McKinley. Been over 100 years, and we're going to find out that almost every politician in our government was bought and paid for and placed in office by those dedicated to bringing America down. And if we go over to the right and look at the sanctuary cities, wait a minute, that's nothing. That's just exactly what we saw in that opening video. That is them creating strongholds in nations and in states around the country where they say, once you got here, we're not going to kick you out. You're welcome to come here and set up your terrorist organizations, and good luck tearing America apart. We have to stop it. We have to get rid of the sanctuary cities. We have to get rid of the politicians that allow it, and we have to get our nation back, because any nation divided and torn apart like we are is destined to fall. Let's go on down. And now we've got an interview that tells something very important. This is on InfoWars, and basically it was disclosed that Biden told us to send our rapists and killers to the U.S. So our own government is basically
Right.
colluding with the global financially moneyed elite to bring America down, to bring terror into the United States, just like you saw in that clip on Spain. Let's go on down. We're going to look at the big picture. And the big picture is something we have to realize, that in 1950, a speech was made to Congress, but I consider to be nothing short of treason. And here's what was said: we shall have world government, whether or not you like it. The only question is whether world government will be by conquest or consent. And so they're coming in and they're bombing us and they're killing us. And then what are they trying to do? Take over the political system and then basically pass laws that allow Sharia law in the United States of America, that allow mosques to come in, that are used to basically radicalize people, that are going to be used to kill Americans. Let's go on down. And now we're going to go to a subject that's a little touchy, but we haven't had an honest election in 100 years. And I'm going to highlight some of the people who've done some of the worst things to us that you can imagine. That's the Bush. That's the Bush family. And if we go all the way back to I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, Epscott, that's probably not the right
Prescott?
pronunciation. Huh?
Is it Prescott?
It's
Prescott.
Prescott Bush. And he was involved with the Germans in World War II. He was funding them. So
Yeah.
basically, the Bushes, both Bushes were part of Skull and Crossbones, and that's an organization designed to groom the elite for offices put in place in order to bring America down. So what we're looking at here is 9/11. And when 9/11 happened, Bush declared immediately this was going to be a generational war lasting 30 years or more. And this man, who you see this quote given by, should be in a position to know what he's talking about. Johannes Koppel, he's the former officer of the German Ministry for Defense and advisor to NATO. And here's what he had to say about Bush's part of the false flag event called 9/11. He said the interests behind the Bush administration, such as the CFR, the Trilateral Commission founded by Brzezinski for David Rockefeller and the Bilderberger Group, have prepared for and are now, listen, moving to implement an open world dictatorship. That's what we're talking about here, folks, is a worldwide dictatorship. Let's go on down, and then we come to Barack Obama. And he told us everything we wanted to hear.
Yep.
He was going to unify the nation. He turned out to be the most divisive president we ever had. He was going to restore economic stability. He ended up bringing us deeper into debt than any of the 43 presidents that preceded him. And when I first heard him running for office, I was following this stuff already because God had shown me what was going to happen. And there were people over in the Middle East and several of the countries who said, don't worry, we got a man in the race and he's going to win. It's all set. And it's Barack Obama. And he is one of us. And when that man got in, look at the things he did. That picture down below, you're seeing them. They're playing the Pledge of Allegiance. He refused to put his hand over his heart. That picture down below is pallets, billions of dollars being shipped to Iran to fund terrorism. And even the New Yorker was labeling him and his wife as enemies of the United States of America. And so when he was asked about his faith, he was caught off guard and he said, my Muslim faith. So read those quotes on your own, and you'll see that this is a man who absolutely was put into power to bring America down. And he is
an
enemy. That's all I can say. An absolute enemy. Let's go to the next slide.
My God.
And now we're to a point of hope, but you need some more history. Did you ever ask yourself, why does Iran hate us? Well, it goes back to oil. It goes back to something that America has been guilty of and Europe has been guilty of. It's called hegemony, where we take resource-rich nations and we basically cultivate their resources and give them pennies on the dollar. So the history lesson here is that an Iranian oil company was given sole rights to develop the oil fields in Iran, and they were giving pennies to the people. And so basically they nationalized the oil fields, and then England came to the United States. Eisenhower was president at the time, and he said, look what they've done. We put billions in here to develop these fields, and now they've nationalized them. And so we got together and created a coup and put the Shah of Iran in, and the man you're seeing here happens to be his son, and the people are wanting him to come back and run the nation. So basically what happened is a radical component got control, and we got the Ayatollahs, and the people of Iran were put into absolute slavery. So if they were unhappy about what we did, they were far more unhappy about what was done to them under the Ayatollahs. So they're basically saying the Iranians want regime change, and they want freedom for Iran, freedom for the woman. And what we need to understand is, for the world to have peace, Iran, the Iranian people, must have freedom. This war is not against the Iranian people. It is against the regime. Just like the people of China, we're not against the people of China. We're against the CCP, against the communists. We're not against Russia. We're against communism. So we need to understand that ideology, those ideologies are 100% counterproductive to basically Christianity and the freedom for the people of the world. Let's go on down. And so basically, this man that we saw in this slide, Reza Pavla, I think is how you pronounce his name, is coming back. He's telling the people it's time. America has softened up the regime, and it's time that we can finally take this nation back. And he's coming back to help to lead the revolt against I have no question that we're going to take this regime down. But now I have to stop. And I have to say, we have to think of the Iranian people. There's a couple of ways this can be done. We've taken out most of their offensive capabilities, and we want to bring this war to an end. And basically the schools are closed, and now the RCG, having to have the headquarters bombed, are using the schools for headquarters. So we're looking at bombing them. But what I hope we will not do, this could bring the war to an end very abruptly, but it could very well take us back to where we were, where the Iranian people become our enemies, because what they're talking about doing is bombing the oil fields and bombing the power plants, and that would throw the whole nation back into the Stone Age, and it would make the Iranian people hate us. So we need to bring this war to an end, and I'm not quite sure how we do it, but I think the way we do it is with an oil squeeze, because basically we can squeeze, we're squeezing Russia, we're squeezing China, we're squeezing Iran, and there's nothing that causes regime change faster than if you take control of the energy and to take control of the money system. So I hope that's the way they bring them down, and that we don't repeat the mistake that caused Iran to be our mortal enemy in the first place. Let's go on down. Oh, well, you stay there. I got to go down to where you are, and I'll go back up where you were.
Okay.
So this is something that I want people to recognize. Aren't those mosques beautiful? How much do you think they cost? 10 million a piece, 15 million, 20 million? Where did a group of penniless refugees get the money to build those mosques? They got it from what? They got it from Turkey. They got it from I can't believe that I have such difficulty. I think it's because I'm in so much pain, but they got it from Iraq, and not Iraq. They got it from Francine, help me out. The Arab Emirates. I can't believe I can't remember that. Anyway, basically they fund these, and here's what happens: they build these beautiful mosques. They pay for the imams and tell them what they can say from the pulpit. They finance the schools that are associated with these mosques, and they teach what? Just what we saw in that video. You are not Spanish, you're not French, you're not British, you are Muslim, you are Islamic, you will never to integrate. They are your enemy. We are here to take over their nations. That's what they teach. So those mosques are to radicalize the youth in order to keep that hatred perpetuated forever and ever and ever and ever. And so what is Spain doing? Spain is saying, you know what? We can shut your mosque down anytime we want. From now on, you're going to show us every single dollar that comes in. And if it's coming from questionable sources, we're going to shut your mosque down completely. You're not going to wear burqas in the streets anymore. And what we can do is we can shut it down like that, because we're not as far down the rabbit hole as Europe is. So let's go to the next slide, and we're going to see what Donald Trump is proposing. He's saying, we see what's happening in Europe. We can pass a law that says no Sharia law. That means the Constitution of the United States only is supreme. There are no Sharia law courts to be allowed in the United States if Donald Trump gets this way. And then let's look over and let's find out what the Supreme Court is considering. They're considering saying something right out of the Bible. Anybody who has dual citizenship cannot be in politics, because you cannot serve two masters. And who do we know they're going to, if they're from Islam nations, who are they going to serve? Islam. They're not going to serve the United States. Right. So we can shut the door just by two simple pieces of legislation, two simple acts from our political leaders, and we can shut the door. Now, what we're going to get into next is some slides that I used in different contexts before, but I want you to see we have the law, and we can use the power of the law, and we can get these people out of here. So what we're looking at is illegal immigration and border security. And here we go. We take their invitation away, no entitlements, no subsidies of any kind. And they're going to come over here, and they're not going to be able to feed their families, so they're going to go home. No access to public schools to educate their children. No access to the medical system. We're not heathens. We'll treat them if they go, but when they leave the hospital, ICE is going to be standing there waiting to deport them. That's and right. No driver's licenses. As heinous as it may seem, this is another one of those scandals that's come out. The Social Security Department, any refugee who came in, no background checks, no nothing. I want a Social Security card that was given to them. And with that Social Security card, they can go to the driver's license bureau and they can get a driver's license. And with that, now the Social Security and the driver's license, they can register to vote, and they can systematically take over the United States from the inside out with the very laws that we passed to protect ourselves. Do you see why we have to stand up, folks? Why we have weapons at our disposal that we can use if we don't wait till it's too late. And this next slide we go to was all about election fraud. And here's what we did. I have a gold star.
I love it.
Noting that I'm an American citizen and I can travel anywhere I want. But basically, if we are stupid enough to say that we're going to kick out the dreamers who've been here their entire lives, maybe never set foot in the country their parents came from, and kick them out, we're going to have civil war. So we need to make some accommodations. We invited these people here with the policies that we had. We're not going to give their parents citizenship, and maybe we never even give them citizenship, but we don't have them constantly fearing that we're going to kick them out of the country and send them to some nation they've never set foot in. All we have to do to prevent that is put a G on their driver's license that they're grandfathered in. Anybody coming in from 2019 on that's part of this terrorist wave, they're gone. They never get that, and they're invited to leave the country. See how easy it is? We don't have to have 1,000-page laws. We have to have common sense, and it's right there. Let's go on down. And this is something else that Donald Trump tried to do that should be so simple. It's amazing. He wanted to ask in the last census, hey, are you an American citizen? And the Supreme Court said you can't ask that question. And why did they want to suppress that? Because that way, that means that they can have those people who are getting their driver's license and their social security cards and their voting IDs, and they're voting. And what are they doing? They're basically in Democratic conclaves, and they're getting more money for their state. They're getting more representatives, and they're systematically taking the nation over behind our very backs because people aren't informed. If you buy my book, you're going to find out about this and all the other ways in which they're systematically behind the scenes stealing the freedom of the American population. You need to get informed, and now is the time. Let's go on down, and we're going to break this down a little more. We're almost done. And election reform. And here's what we have to do. Trump is pushing hard to get these things done. New voter registration rules, because we have millions of dead people and millions of people that are registered multiple times. We have to get clean rolls. And we have to pay. There's two pieces of legislation that are crucial, folks. We have to have the Save America bill, because that's going to force voter IDs. That's going to force that we know when you come in, you're authorized to vote. And then we have to have authentication of absentee ballots, and very few absentee ballots. You better be critically ill in the hospital, or you better be a military on deployment, or else you're not going to get the opportunity to file an absentee ballot. We have to close the drop boxes completely, eliminate them. We have to go from electronic voting that can be tampered with to paper ballots, and we have to insist that the votes are counted and reported to the American people on the same day. Trump is pushing for all of that and more. And so we need this. The other part of the message I want to say is they call him this disruptor. And yes, indeed he is. But don't we need to disrupt the very society that is trying to collapse us? We need a man who's got an iron temperament, who will stand up against the opposition and fight for the freedom of America and the freedom of every nation in the world. Let's go on down. That ends our presentation, except for two announcements. Real quickly, I'm going to be in an event on March the 27th, 28th, and 29th in Florida. You can click on that and go and find all about it. The 27th is just going to be a meet and greet, and the show is going to be the 28th and 29th. And then I want to go back to my book and just encourage you, folks. This is the time. God has prepared me for my entire life for this time to release the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth at a time when it's essential. We need to have millions of people in America who understand the kind of things that I've been talking about in this show, and who are able to stand up and be a united voice to stand for freedom, to stand for prosperity, not only for the United States, but for the world. And now I want to close with something about this conversation in Iran. So anyway, if you want to buy this book, just click that QR code and it'll take you right to my website. But talking about Iran being a nation of what? A peace. I want to tell you something that's in the Quran. When we're talking about Ramadan and they're saying, come out and kill us, right? You might have a neighbor living next door to you who's Muslim, who goes to the mosque every week. And he's a great guy. I have him over every Sunday. We barbecue together. But it's more than likely that it could be like that film clip we saw where that boy was raised in Italy, or I don't know what European nation it was. And because he saw a cartoon that defamed in some way or other Muhammad, he chopped the teacher's heads off. Why? How can we have these kids growing up in America and hating us because they're taught in the mosque that that's their duty, their obligation to hate us? We are their mortal enemies. And what does it say in the Quran repeatedly over and over again? Hey, listen, they're your enemies. You are obligated to kill them. You were obligated to lie to them. You were obligated to deceive them. You were obligated to do whatever you need to do to make sure that we, the Islamic community, become the dominant religion in the entire world. So you can't trust the guy next to you. Can be as friendly as can be. He can be a surgeon. He can be next door neighbor. But if he goes to that mosque and he has been radicalized, then he's going to look you square in the face and lie to you and make you think that he's your friend when in fact he's your enemy. Now, there's some good news as we close this. The people in Iran have been under some subjugation that I think when this is over, here's what we're seeing. We're seeing an unprecedented amount of people in Iran that are hearing from Christ, that are getting filled with the Holy Spirit. We're seeing Christianity sweep through Iran. I think that once these people get their freedom and once we close down the mosques that radicalize us, then we're truly going to see the day in the future when we can trust them, when they will be our friends. But that day is not here presently. We have to be vigilant and we have to have an army of informed citizens because we are what? A republic. And a republic is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And it has certain obligations. And those obligations relate to this book that you're seeing on the screen. What it basically says is that you have to be informed. That means we have to get out of the lies that are propagated on us every day by the schools and by the politicians and by the global financial elite and all the spheres of influence. We have to be informed. We have to be educated. We have to be godly people. We have to be people that are willing to vote our conscience, not willing to vote because somebody's going to give us a handout. Because we were told when our Constitution was founded that it was not founded on the laws of man, it was founded on the laws of God, on the 10 Commandments, and that our obligation is to basically be what? Something that Islam just doesn't understand. We are to basically number two, one and two things in the Bible: love thy Lord thy God with all thy heart and all thy soul. And what's the next one? Love thy brother, thy neighbor as thy brother. So we have to be the epitome, the exact opposite of what Islam is. We have to step out, and as this financial reset happens, and we're going to have money, God's got everything queued up. We need to be our brother's keepers. We need to go back to the Bible where we take care of the widows, where we take care of the poor. We need to be that shining light on the hill that God always intended us to be. And God is preparing America for that very purpose again. So, folks, with all sincerity, I'm not telling you to buy this book because it's going to make me rich. I'm telling you to buy this book because it is one of the key things that can help save this nation and save the world. So please go out and spend the equivalent of 3 cups of coffee and buy that book. We'll see you next week. May you all be blessed.
Thank you, Larry, for being on the broadcast today and sharing that relevant information. For some people who do not know that the Muslim Brotherhood have a 100-year plan. So they've been planning this for quite some time. But God also has a plan. Hallelujah. So we trust in him, that's for sure. So thank you everyone again for joining us on Upfront in the Prophetic. Larry, we love you. God bless you. Have a safe trip. I know that we'll be traveling a little bit as well. So until next time, God bless you, everyone. We love you much.
Be blessed.
Be blessed.